What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats, as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Black Ops 6. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the PP919. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile. And with this gun, it starts off at a 4-shot kill in the maximum damage range, and then that will increase steadily up to a 7-shot kill in its minimum damage range. As for headshots, by default, in the maximum damage range, you can't reduce the number of shots to kill, so you'll never get a 3-shot kill with this against a full health enemy. However, at all of the other ranges, you have to land at least 2 to 3 headshots in order to reduce the number of shots to kill, unless you use the CHF barrel. If you use this, right up close and personal, you can get a 3-shot kill now, but every one of those shots has to hit the head, which is generally not going to be happening. And then for every other range with the CHF barrel, you just need 2 headshots mixed in with body shots to cut down the number of shots to kill. Then taking a look at our rate of fire, this is on the slower side for an SMG. It's not as slow as the Tonta 22, but it is still quite slow at 625 rounds per minute. And what this means for our time to kill potential is with a 4-shot kill, we're killing in 288 milliseconds. This is the slowest up close time to kill in the SMG category, so not an area where this gun really excels. But if you do use the CHF barrel and manage to hit all 3 shots to the head up close, we will be killing in 192 milliseconds, which is insanely fast, but like I said, also very unlikely. Or the other option for reducing our time to kill is to use rapid fire. This will bump our rate of fire up to 698 rounds per minute, which now gives us a 4-shot time to kill potential of 258 milliseconds. And that's much more competitive. That's now getting right around the average time to kill of SMGs without the rapid fire attachment in the equation. So definitely far more competitive with rapid fire on there. Next up, let's get into our damage ranges, and this is an area where the PP919 does excel in the SMG category. Its maximum damage range is actually the best in the category at about 18 meters, although if you guys saw the recent Tonta 22 episode, with that one, you're actually killing the same number of shots in the second damage range as well, so if we're looking at effective ranges, technically the Tonta 22 does better than this gun, but outside of that, this does have the best range in the SMG category, which at least somewhat makes up for that slower time to kill potential. As for our bullet velocity, it's fairly standard for an SMG at 540 meters per second. However, we can boost that by 50% with the gain twist barrel. That's a massive boost, and now our hit scan range with that barrel will be just over 40 meters. However, I actually prefer the long barrel on this. This will give us a 35% boost to our range, which now means our 4-shot kill potential is about 25 meters. That's very impressive for an SMG. And generally speaking, on most of the maps in this game, if you're playing it right, you can easily keep yourself within this 4-shot kill range on a consistent basis. So that's definitely one area where this gun can excel. As for rapid fire, we do lose 10% to our range as well as our bullet velocity, but like I said earlier, we do get a really nice time to kill improvement there as well. So definitely a decent option on this gun, and we'll see that on at least one of my class setups that I share later. But next, let's have a look at hardcore game modes. And in hardcore, we will get a 1-shot kill to the body in the maximum damage range, so out to about 18 meters. And then beyond that, for the next 2 damage ranges, we can still get a 1-shot kill with a headshot, with or without the CHF barrel. And then beyond that, in the minimum damage range, it's going to be a 2-shot kill, even with the CHF barrel with a headshot. As for hipfire, we do have a worse than average hipfire spread for the SMG category on this gun, although it's really not that much worse, and at the end of the day, if you're in a close quarter situation, you can still hipfire fairly effectively with the PP919. And now let's get into recoil, and this gun is quite controllable, especially for the initial shots fired. It's really consistent, it kicks upward and a little bit to the left for the first 20 or so shots fired, so you've got a lot of time before this suddenly kicks to the right on you, and that's generally where it's going to screw you up if you are spraying for a long time. But within those first 20 rounds, it's super consistent. Those shots are generally quite tight together, so not that difficult to control this recoil at all. And generally speaking, I would consider this to be a solid upside with this gun. And honestly, even with the CHF barrel, while this definitely increases our recoil, especially with those initial shots fired, it's still reasonably controllable. And it's a similar story with rapid fire. That's not that bad at all. That's still more accurate than many of the guns in this game are without any attachments on. So definitely, especially with rapid fire, still a very reasonable attachment to use recoil-wise. Next, let's dive into our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is unfortunately the slowest in the SMG category at 240 milliseconds. That's not completely unreasonable, but it's more along the lines of what you'd expect with a faster handling assault rifle rather than an SMG. And it's the same story with our sprint to fire time. This is the slowest in the SMG category at 160 milliseconds. Still not bad, you can still be fairly aggressive with this, just not as aggressive as many of the other SMGs. But then after that, for our slide to fire and dive to fire time, both of these values are exactly the same for all of the SMGs at 320 milliseconds and 400 milliseconds respectively. Then moving on to our reload time, this is quite slow by default with this gun at 2.32 seconds. This is by far the slowest in the SMG category, but this also has by far the biggest magazine by default in the SMG category at 64 rounds. So that's actually one of the big benefits of using this gun, and when you factor that in as well when we're looking at our handling stats, while they are the slowest in the SMG category, if you were to put on the biggest extended mag possible on most of the other SMGs, you would see pretty comparable numbers. So essentially, if you just think of this as a gun that gives you a free Extended Mag 2 or Extended Mag 3 on it, then the handling stats really start to make a lot more sense. And it turns out we have 3 fast mag attachments on this. You can use a 50 round, 40 round, or 30 round magazine, and each of those will progressively reload faster and also give you better handling stats. So definitely very viable options. You could also increase this magazine capacity up to 85 rounds. Personally, I think that's a little bit overkill. And if anything, if I am going to use a magazine, it's typically going to be one of the fast mags so I can get some better handling stats in there as well. But then finally for our base stats, this leaves us with our mobility stats. And unfortunately, across the board, we have the slowest mobility stats in the SMG category. So in every one of these areas, we will be below average. But again, that's a trade-off you're making for getting that huge magazine by default for free. And with that, it's now time to move into some excellent attachment combinations I've got for you guys with the PP919. And the first one I wanted to share is what I like to call my rapid stealth build. So with this one, we are using rapid fire, which gives us that significantly more competitive time to kill potential up close at 258 milliseconds. We're also using the suppressor to stay off the radar. We got Fast Mag 2 on there, which gives us a 40 round magazine capacity, a very noticeably better reload time, and also much better handling stats. We've combined that with the ergonomic grip to help with aim down sight time, slide to fire, and dive to fire time. And then finally the infiltrator stock so we can strafe faster in gunfights. And with this one, it's definitely less accurate than the base recoil, but it's still very manageable. This is a super easy recoil pattern to predict and control. And I still find I can stretch ranges out, at least within the context of it being an SMG. We do lose a little bit to our range as well as bullet velocity due to that rapid fire attachment, but this gun can afford to lose a little bit in those areas while still being decent. And it also allows us to be very aggressive with those handling stats. Our new aim down sight time is just 175 milliseconds, and our new sprint out time is 140 milliseconds. So overall, not a bad option if you're being really aggressive with this gun and you want to compete properly with the other SMGs right up close and personal. Next, let's have a look at my gunfighter setup. And with this gun, we can't use an underbarrel attachment. It doesn't exist on this. And as a result, with Gunfighter, you can pick one attachment from each available slot. And with this one, I went with the Kepler Microflex. Even though I like the iron sight, you might as well use an optic since it's free on this setup. We once again have the suppressor to stay off the radar, the long barrel this time, so we can really boost that 4-shot kill range up to about 25 meters. We've got Fast Mag 1 on this, which is the 50 round magazine, which will give us a slight boost to our reload speed as well as our handling stats, but not as much as with the previous build. Then we're once again using the ergonomic grip and the infiltrator stock. Both of those are excellent attachments. I threw the target laser on there. That just helps with aim walking steadiness. So if you are using that infiltrator stock to strafe in gunfights, this just keeps you a little bit better on target so your sight's not bouncing around as much. And then finally, we're topping this off with recoil springs to give us a very accurate gun, a little bit more accurate than the base version of the gun, with an excellent range profile, solid enough mobility stats as well that you can now properly compete with the SMGs out there. And really, the only downside with this build is right up close and personal, your time to kill is going to be beat out by the other SMGs in the game, but this one really excels at mid-ranges, and that's generally where you want to try to keep yourself with this particular setup. And then finally, this leaves us with one last setup I wanted to share for you guys, and I just call this my versatile setup. So with this one, we're using the compensator to help with our recoil control, combined with the long barrel to help with that range value. We're once again using that combination of ergonomic grip and infiltrator stock, just a really good combo on this gun that I use on every one of my PP919 setups. And then finally, we're topping this one off with rapid fire again. So we do get that really solid time to kill potential. However, the long barrel will overcompensate for the range loss that you get from rapid fire. And we're seeing a net 21.5% improvement to our 4-shot kill range, which is really solid with this gun and allows us to be very versatile while also being accurate with that compensator, like I said. And we're using the default magazine capacity, which is excellent at 64 rounds. And this just makes her a really nice all-arounder as long as you don't mind showing up on the radar. And with that, that's going to wrap it up today's gun guide on the PP919. As for my thoughts on this gun, I like it. I think it has a lot of interesting things going for it. It's got some interesting characteristics that I enjoy. At the same time, you are just going to be dominated by the other SMGs up close and personal unless you're using rapid fire. And therefore, it's good, it's fun, but it's not the best out there, and it's not the type of gun that I would go to if I'm in a really difficult lobby, for instance. I'm never going to be falling back on the PP919, but I do enjoy using it from time to time. Now, of course, these are just my thoughts on this gun, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in those comments down below. And if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description down below. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.